Good evening. It's Sunday, June 24th, 2018. The NHL draft has been completed this weekend, but the news just keeps on coming. John Carlson re-signed with the Washington Capitals today. Ilya Kovalchuk signed with the Los Angeles Kings today. There were trades to announce. Not many, but there were a few. We've got a jam-packed show this evening, so thank you for tuning in. This is Teal Tinted Glasses. I'm Kevin Lacey, along with the man piloting this show, this flight risk wreck, whatever. No, it's going to be a good show, guys. It's Ian Reed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We got tons to talk about. First things first, I do want to apologize for those that were unfortunate enough to catch the last show on replay. YouTube kind of just messed us over, and it's really out of our control. It wasn't really anything that we could do. When we were talking to each other, it was crystal clear the whole time. Like, we didn't have, I didn't hear anyone having AOL noises or anything like that. Unfortunately, the video that did come out, though, was kind of garbage, and I apologize for that, even though completely out of our control.
You know what it was, I think, Ian, is that Hockey Jerk was on the show last time.
Mm-hmm.
So just in an effort to just weed him out, we decided we're going to do another show for you guys today without him. And it's going to be a lot better.
It's going to be,
sorry, Hockey Jerk.
It's going to be better. But for those that caught the show live, obviously, we're probably going to just try and cover some things that we did cover on the previous show. So bear with us. Just because I feel really bad that the last show, which was really good in my opinion, got kind of garbled by technical crap out of our control. So that being said, we got a lot to cover tonight, so we're going to get right into it. I'm going to start with, obviously, let's go back to round one. For those that don't know or didn't hear the last show, the Sharks drafted Ryan Merkley with the 21st overall pick. Ryan Merkley, just to recap, is a guy who, in my opinion, has top 10 talent, but has issues off the ice that hurt his draft stock significantly. I know a lot of people messaged me after I wrote my piece on Teal Town USA about the signing, and they're like, well, who wasn't immature at 17? I mean, look, I get that angle of it, but I feel like with the noise and the fact that so many teams, Sam Cosentino was on the 31 Thoughts podcast a while back, and he said that there was a significant number of teams that had Ryan Merkley on their no draft list. And when it comes to the CHL especially, like, Sam Cosentino knows his stuff and he knows scouts, and if he says it, I absolutely believe it, that there were teams that just would not, regardless of how far he fell, wouldn't even take a look at Ryan Merkley. So I think that, yes, while that he can grow out of this, and he said a lot of great things in his interview after he was drafted on the Sharks Periscope, he said all the right things, but I think that it would be wrong. I know a lot of people just want to completely just tune all this out and just be like, no, look at the talent. I think that you need to be cautious here. Kevin, what are your thoughts on Ryan Merkley?
Absolutely. This is as big of a buyer beware as the Sharks have maybe ever had, or at least since Andre Zuzin. That's going back away, and we all know how that one turned out, which is why I'm hoping it's not going to turn that way again. Ryan Merkley, definitely more offensive upside from the blue line, yes, more talent than Andre Zuzin, but still just all this stuff outside of, it's not even outside of the game. It's poutiness on the rink. It's just getting frustrated, and on the broadcast, on the draft broadcast, they were calling him uncoachable. That's not a word. Like, I know some people have said that, right, he'll grow out of it, and it can be taught. Can coachability be taught? I don't know, but we're going to find out. Offensively, defensively, we'll see. That can be taught. Offensively, no question. He's got the talent. He's one of the fastest skaters in the entire draft. He's got loads of skill, loads of talent. If he can put it all together, Ryan Merkley will be an absolute A-grade pick for the Sharks. And this is the type of pick that Sharks fans have clamored for. I like, Ian, in your article, I noticed you used my word clamored for. Yep. Check out tealtownusa.com for Ian's article on the draft. But this is the pick that the Sharks fans have been clamoring for a number of years. Tired of the picks like Josh Norris and players before him that don't really have a lot. You know, they're the safe pick. This is definitely not the safe pick. It's the type of pick the Sharks needed. I don't know if this is the player I would have gone with.
Yeah, I think, like, if, you know, when Doug Wilson, like, when he said he was going to take a riskier pick, you know, the player that came to my mind immediately was like a Keandre Miller, who went not too long after to the Rangers.
And I like Keandre Miller, man.
You know, Keandre Miller's converted forward, you know, a ton of he's got a lot of talent, but it's raw talent. Like, it needs to be molded. Yeah. And, you know, and obviously the thing there is obviously that you would get nervous about Keandre Miller because, you know, the Sharks, you know, developing defensemen. Like, this is why I like the Ryan Merkley pick, because he has the skill. Yes, he needs to learn to play in his own end. Absolutely get that. Yes, he has problems. But, you know, it's important to point out, too, that the problems that Ryan Merkley has aren't, like, when you hear character issues and an NHL player or a potential draft pick or anything like that, I won't repeat what I said last show, but, you know, his issues aren't, you know, this guy is not in trouble with, you know, with being inappropriate with the ladies. This guy isn't, you know, putting his hands where they don't belong physically. You know, he's not getting into fights outside of the rink or anything like that. He's not drunk driving and partying all night and crashing his car into a Tim Hortons. All of Ryan Merkley's character off-ice issues still pertain to the rink. He can be a little petulant. He doesn't like to be told, you know, or things that have been said about Ryan Merkley. But, you know, his issues aren't outside the rink in places where you would be far more concerned. I mean, you know, a couple of people tweeted something along this lines. It's like, you know, people are watching all these talented kids slide down the draft because of character issues, and yet they're all running to re-sign Slava Voinov. Like, this is not that kind of situation with Ryan Merkley, and I want to make sure that's very clear.
That Voinov is going to come back, but regardless.
but still, I mean, you know, like, I still feel like there's a team out there that's going to do that deal. And yet, you know, I don't know. Hockey's a weird sport when it comes to these things.
Yeah. The character issues, yeah, we'll see. Ian, I know you were very quick to point out, and as members of the media have been, that Merkley's seeing a sports psychologist, and he's been very upfront about his issues, I guess, for lack of a better term, his issues in all of his interviews. And I do think that's commendable. I referred to him on the last show as, I think he's Stifler's little brother from American Pie. He kind of looks like him too. So, hey, I mean, Stifler's little brother and one of the American Pie spinoffs eventually figured it out, and I'm hoping Ryan Merkley will as well. So
that's an amazing analogy. Yeah. So, I mean,
you can only get these kinds of analogies by subscribing to Teal Tinted Glasses.
Yeah, I mean, look at, and it's interesting because I wonder too, you know, because he said he's gonna seek help and stuff. Because the one thing that really surprised me, and the fact that the Sharks even still went here, was it seemed like all the rankings post-combine, he slid hard. And I wonder, yeah, I think was it Nick Boynton that did an article on the Players Tribune about how he basically said, like, you know, he had some issues and he was open and going to get help with them, and then he was basically out of a job.
I don't know if it was him, but I do think that happens a lot more than we realize with the players who just kind of disappear from the league. So
right. So I think that I wonder, you know, if that was a part of him sliding down the sliding down the rankings after the combine.
Yeah, Bodie Wild, the player that on the last show I could not believe was not drafted in the first round. I had him at that time. I've adjusted my list a little. I had him as 11th on my list. I still have him as 14th. He fell to 41st, but apparently there's some kind of off ice thing going on. Don't know. They're very hush hush on it. But guys can fall and fall hard, especially when you've got scouts who are determined to take their guy no matter who falls. You saw Philip Zadina fall to 6th. This is a guy that could have been selected 2nd overall. And it's probably because some teams just simply said, this is our guy. Zadina's great, but this is the guy that we're going forward with. So,
well, and the combination of that and just stupid drafting.
Well, okay, Montreal, but
Phoenix or Arizona, sorry.
Arizona. But yeah, guys like Merkley, guys like Bodie Wild, guys like Matt Barzal, they fall, and now it's up to the player to make everyone else look stupid and say, "Hey, I can overcome this."
Right, and I'm looking forward to watching a lot more of him. Unfortunately, he's in the wrong conference, so I don't get to see him as much. But I'm definitely gonna, when Guelph's on TV, which that division generally is, I will be watching.
Yeah.
You know what? I like the pick though. I think I gave the pick a B+ because look, there is a risk factor here. I can't just be like, oh, this is A+. All the noise doesn't matter. Like this is going to be the biggest steal of the draft, or it's going to go down as like one of the biggest whiffs that Doug Wilson has ever made. It's going to be one way or the other. Is going to be no in between.
But I don't want to hear the people complaining about why did we take Ryan Merkley in 3 or 4 years, because this is the pick that everyone wanted. Like this is the type of pick that everyone's been asking for years. So now it's time to see whether it's going to pan out.
Yeah. I don't know. I know I was watching the Sportsnet feed, obviously. I think they were just more shocked than anything, just based on, and again, Sam Cosentino was the guy that does the draft for Sportsnet. He's one of the big commentators, and I just think he was shocked because again, there was a number of teams that had this guy on their no draft list, and I just think there was more shock than anything else. I think this is a guy who has issues, and I think that when it comes to issues too, the thing you have to understand with Ryan Merkley is because Ryan Merkley played in the GTHL before moving on to the OHL, being drafted 1st overall. I mean, there's a lot of attention on Ryan Merkley that that may not be on other players. Like Ryan Merkley is not the only 17-year-old, 18-year-old hockey player with character issues. I can assure you of that.
Oh, definitely.
But I don't want to beat this horse too much longer because we did cover it on the other show, and I apologize again for those that didn't catch it live.
Real quickly, you mentioned, was Sam Cosentino the one that was with Ryan Rishaug and Brian Burke and on the broadcast?
Yeah.
Okay, because I did actually, I know a lot of people, just real quick, were complaining about the NBC Sportsnet feed, who ripped Merkley apart, by the way. Normally, I actually find their coverage very good. I didn't think their coverage was very good this year, but NHL Network has been replaying the Sportsnet feed, and I always, if you're new to the show, I dog Sportsnet all the time, but I thought their coverage of the first round was very good, and I think it's worth checking out if you are willing to spend another 3 hours watching the draft all over again. They covered the draft much superior to NBC Sports this year. So
it's just sad because, like, didn't NBC have Mackenzie?
Yeah, but Mackenzie and Pierre, and they were just goofing off.
Yeah.
It was just like, it's like, oh my goodness, let's have some context, please. Like, so Sportsnet won the draft this year. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. So let's talk about the other players the Sharks picked. First, the 3rd round, they drafted Linus Carlson. A lot of their picks, thing to point out, you're going to hear over and over again, a lot of these picks are very much off the board. And the Doug Wilson did his typical trading up for players that he probably didn't have to trade up for. This draft though, I feel like after 60, like after the second round, like it wasn't a particularly strong draft. So I think that you get the ability to kind of take some real swings. And I think the Sharks did take some real swings here.
Yeah, Ian, I do agree with you. Going into this draft, I thought this was going to be a very deep draft, but the more I started to research this over the last couple of weeks, the more I realized it's pretty top heavy.
Like, yeah, once after 60, it really, in my opinion, really dropped off.
Yeah, so and a lot of players who there was information out for, they didn't get picked. And then you've got guys who are ranked in the 300s on some lists that got picked. It's like, okay, all I got is a name and a position. Here we go.
Right. I'm going to tell you, writing my recap took me most of the day. One, because I slept half of it and I was sick. But I mean, I had to, for some of these guys, I had to dig really hard for like the smallest shred of information on them. So Linus Karlsson's a center, 6'1", 180 pounds. Sweden, plays for Karlskrona.
Yeah, Karlskrona. Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about where the pecking order is in the SHL. He plays obviously in this. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, let me take the reins on Linus Karlsson here.
Sure.
So he plays for Karlskrona, which is a team that got relegated from the SHL this year. They were dead last in the SHL. He also spent significant time playing in the under 20 league in Sweden, the Super Elite, where Karlskrona also finished in last place. However, Karlsson was the second leading scorer in the entire league,
right?
Which is pretty awesome. We'll see how that translates to the pro game, but he did in Sweden, especially. You see it in Finland and in Sweden and in Switzerland, where you get 17, 18-year-olds who have played 25 games, but that equates to about 12 minutes of ice time. Because there are guys who get dressed and don't play. And there are guys who maybe get a shift or two, and that's it. So one of the exciting things for me with Karlsson, because there's not a lot of info out there, except for apparently he's a dominant face-off centerman. I did read that. But one of the things that is exciting to me is because Karlskrona is relegated now down to the Allsvenskan, which is the second league in Sweden.
Right.
He can get into a more winning culture this way than getting slaughtered like they did in the SHL this year. So hopefully all that scoring from junior will translate over to the second tier. Maybe he gets Karlskrona back up to the top tier, and then you got a player. We'll see. We'll see on Karlsson.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's going to be the thing that's going to be hard for Karlsson is that playing in the Allsvenskan, he's going to have a hard time getting an honest look for like the World Junior team next year.
True.
And I think like a lot of people might, it's hard to you want to see your prospects, especially European prospects, be able to make their international teams. And that's where I fear for Karlsson is that by not seeing him on those international teams, I think that people are going to be a little more sour on this prospect than they should have. But, being, as you said, playing in the Allsvenskan, that's not his choice. That's where his team got relegated to. So,
yeah.
I really hope that he can, put up a lot of points there. And if he puts up a lot of points in the Allsvenskan like he did in the Super Elite, the Sharks may have done pretty well here. I gave this pick a C+, just because, it's hard to I like the European leagues, but the European junior leagues I'm not as high on. A lot of the guys that do really well, like in the World Juniors and stuff, they generally make their club team, like their SHL team, their top Finnish league affiliate. Like they don't play in the lesser leagues. So it's a nice pick.
All of it.
I like what I hear.
Larson defeated that. But other than that, you're right. And the other thing, the only other thing on Carlson for me is I didn't like that the Sharks traded up for him. I mean, I have to think the Sharks had some kind of knowledge that other teams were interested in order to trade up for him, because you're going to see this. We'll see this theme here with a few of these guys. I don't think the Sharks needed to trade up for this guy, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the pick, but I'm not super. I don't know. It's too soon to tell based on what I know now. I mean, it's a C+ pick. We'll see what he does in the Allsvenskan, and then I think we'll have a better grasp of whether this is going to be, a steal. He's drafted in the 3rd round, so that's not good for him.
I was about to say bigger upside than. So this is our 3rd year of doing these shows, and I think this is the first time we've been at least halfway satisfied with a 3rd round pick. So
this is the first time, I think, because I think I've destroyed every other 3rd round pick we've made.
We have unanimously.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, so I mean, I like this player, and I'm hoping that this player, I'm hoping this player has a good year in the Allsvenskan, and and we can all be super jacked about Doug Wilson pulling the trigger on the player, even though I still think they didn't have to trade up to get him. But that's okay. In the 4th round, I don't have my numbers beside my players here. The next draft pick that the Sharks picked up was a gentleman by the name of Jasper Weathersby, and I feel like
he should have a butler, or should be a butler.
Don't you think that Barclay Goodrow, Rourke Chartier, and Jasper Weathersby should be like on safari somewhere, or having this match at a country club? Like it's got to be one or the other, right?
Jumanji 2,
starring Rourke Chartier, Barclay Goodrow, and Jasper Weathersby. It's amazing. I really like this pick, actually. There are a few things to be concerned about. One, double overager. But still, this guy's a double overager, so he's playing in the BCHL. BCHL is the Junior A League. It's a step below the WHL. The reason you go into the BCHL is either you're not good enough to play in the WHL, or you are going to college, which is what Mr. Weathersby has done. The interesting about Jasper Weathersby is that he's American. So playing in the BCHL is, for me, it's a curious route. You'd think that being American, you're going to college. Why wouldn't you play in the USHL? I don't know. That's curious for me. But what I can tell you about his last year was in the BCHL, he tore it up. He won the scoring title, regular season, playoffs. He was the top scorer in the RBC Cup, which is basically Baby Memorial Cup. And I mean, like, this guy is just lit up the goalies. So I really like this pick. You got to be careful though, because he's a late bloomer, but he's also 20 years old playing with younger players. What I do like, though, is that he's committed to the University of North Dakota, who runs a great program. And like I said on Twitter, if North Dakota's interested in this player, then I'm interested in this player. But there's,
definitely, I always have sung the praises of UND on this show. And the thing that drives me nuts about Weatherby is I looked him up last year, and I recall thinking very favorably of him, but I don't remember any of the context, and I really wish I did now that he's a Sharks prospect. But I'm
right.
Like,
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. I like the player. Brent Burns is a spirit animal, and you can't argue with that. During their Stanley Cup run, he was caught on the broadcast. The thing I like about this pick, though, other than the UND thing, is just, I mean, this guy's big. It's big. And I think the Sharks could use a little more size in their lineup. I think that, look at that. You want to be fast. And obviously, I think Weathersby, probably, I can't remember if skating's an issue here or not. But
think it is actually.
I like the pick.
I do too. And you're talking about size really quickly.
Mhm.
One of the things that we haven't really discussed, we've talked about how the Barracuda have like a gazillion forwards. They have 19 forwards slated for the team next year. Outside of Jeff VL, they don't really have anybody of size on the roster because they let Brandon Mashinter go.
Right.
And I forgot, they let someone else go. They let Bolig go at the trade deadline. They have no size at all up front. So, I mean, he's not going to be helping the Barracuda this year, even though he's an old overage player. He's not. But down the line, you have to have some kind of balance. So
yeah, I gave this pick a B because I mean, you know, the scoring can't be denied. And you know, and I'm interested to see how he develops in college. I think that going to college is going to be, you know, he's in a great program. And I think that is a huge benefit for him.
Yep.
And if yeah, I just stupid amount of points. Stupid.
Yeah. Moving on to a player that we didn't really like as much.
No. So the Sharks' next pick was Zachary Edmund, a goaltender who plays for Rouyn-Noranda. He's their current backup goaltender. Numbers aren't really anything to write home about, and we always joke about Q stats. And
yeah,
yeah, I mean, these numbers for a goaltender in the Q on an actually decent team, kind of rough.
Yeah, goaltending in the Q especially is hard to gauge. I mean, you look at a guy like Antoine Bibeau, who was one of the very best goaltenders in the Q a few years ago, and almost found himself in Europe until he became Evgeny Nabokov's personal reclamation project this year and did wonders for the Barracuda. Sam Montembeault, another goalie who was one of the best goalies in the draft a couple of years ago, I believe it was. But he was playing in the E this year, and he's still a project goalie. So even the very best goalies out of that league are kind of high risk. So Zach Amond, I'm like, we'll see. They clearly they see something in him. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't take him.
They see 6'3".
They must see it must be size something. I'm glad the Sharks did take goalie in this draft because I was going to be just super angry if they didn't take somebody. I think it kind of sucks that the Kings got Jacob Ingham in the very pick before this.
Yeah.
Because even though I don't think super highly of Ingham, I do think he's a better goalie. I haven't seen any of Amond, but just of what I've seen in Ingham, it's better. I have a better impression than what I read of Amon. So we'll see.
Christine asks if we ever go back and compare our grades with how players actually panned out over time. Sometimes, especially.
I absolutely do. The only thing I need to start doing is keeping my lists, as opposed to just overwriting them year after year. But I generally, like, if I hear a player, I can tell you right off the bat, I thought this guy was trash or I thought this guy was great. So, and I'll own up to it. So.
As far as like actual grades go, I don't always remember the actual grade because I'd have to go back and listen to previous year's podcasts, which I sometimes do just to kind of get an idea of where my head was at that point to try and see if, if there's any like confirmation bias or, if I was way off or right on or whatever. But yeah, I probably need to start writing this stuff down.
But hey, Zach Amond, we don't think very highly of him. But not many people thought very highly of Evgeny Nabokov at pick number 219 way back in the day, and that turned out great. So, hey, you never know.
I mean, the Sharks goalie pipeline is just garbage, and I don't really think this helps. But again, like Kevin says, you never know. Goalies are voodoo. You never know what's going to happen with them. I don't like the pick. I gave it a D. I don't know what they see here. But hey, I don't watch a ton of the Q at all because I like hockey or I can understand the commentators. So unless it's like
the
Halifax, I am watching. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't like this pick, but I like that they picked a goalie because the Sharks do desperately need goalies. I don't think this was a particularly great draft for goalies, to be honest. When I look at some of the names of players that got drafted this year, it wasn't huge. It wasn't like there wasn't anyone where it's like, oh man, you need to get this goalie. I don't know. That's my opinion. I'm sure other people who watch a lot more of these prospects might disagree with me, but yeah. And our last pick is John Leonard, currently playing for UMass. He is a
Amherst.
overager, yes, UMass Amherst, overager +1, which means he's 19. He's already gone through the draft once. Um, I I don't hate the pick, and at this is in the 6th round, so I don't it's a 6th round pick. I don't know how enamored you should be by a 6th round pick. Although last year I was really enamored by our later round picks. This year, yeah, this year I'm kind of like, meh, all right. What I do like, this is another guy who led his team in scoring last year as a freshman, which is in college. That's special. Now, it should be noted that UMass Amherst not exactly one of the bigger powers in Hockey East. So being like that, there are going to be obviously more opportunities for a guy like Leonard to get ice time, but still, as a freshman, to come out and lead your team in scoring, to push to get that kind of ice time, that takes some skill. You don't just go in as a freshman and get all the minutes.
Yeah, John Leonard, here's a guy. Sometimes I just get hunches and I can't explain it. And I had that hunch about Joe Pavelski, and I had that hunch about Torrey Mitchell, and they both became NHLers, obviously. There's something about this John Leonard pick that I like. I love that as a freshman he put up so many points, because that is an excellent track line for most of the prospects that at least become very good AHL players. If you can put up points in your freshman year, because getting ice time as a freshman is hard in NCAA. So, yeah, Amherst isn't the greatest program, but Cale Makar is going there next year, is he not?
Yeah, I think if he's not there already, he's going there next year. Yeah, and also he's playing with Sharks prospect
Mario Ferraro.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here's the one thing that I have to this pick, and I actually wrote this down so I wouldn't forget. Where is it? Okay, there it is. I hope this is the player this player, John Leonard. I hope they were watching him regularly, and it wasn't just we're paying more attention to Mario Ferraro, but this guy's kind of good. Let's just take him. Like,
yeah.
I hope that they actually went out there with the intention of, wow, John Leonard's impressing us this year, because 6th and 7th round picks, yeah, we're not expecting much. I mean, you're looking at like a 4 and 3% chance, or 6 and 5% chance of them developing to anything, something like that.
I think it's a 6% chance of playing enough games to earn their pension in the NHL.
Yeah. But I don't like throwaway picks too. I don't think this is that case, because I like what I see of him statistically. I hope it's not a situation where they were looking at one guy and just went, yeah, he's all right.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. I keep saying we'll see, but hey, that's the draft.
That's the draft. I always get nervous about, I don't particularly love overage players. Now, with Weathersby, I kind of can draw some parallels there to Gambrell, who was really angry when we drafted as a double overager, and I've clearly come around on that pick. Yeah. Again, this is a guy I like. I gave it a C just because I don't know why. Yeah, he scored a lot of goals on the freshman team, on a bad team though. The numbers, he led the team, which is a little bit scary, because the numbers weren't super high, even for college. Like, they weren't knock your socks off great. This is a guy though that if he can, continue to develop and that's, and it works out, then I think that's great. But I'm not, it's a 6th round pick. I can't get super excited. Maybe I could have graded it higher, being that it was a 6th round pick, but It is what it is. I was really tired by the time I got to them, so it is. It is what it is. Kevin, go ahead.
All right, Ian. So first off in the chat, Phil mentioning Doogie Fever, Sean Doogie, the amazing story of last year's prospects camp. We will get to see, or at least I expect that we'll get to see all of these prospects at the development camp on July 6th, Friday, July 6th. Get your tickets online at Ticketmaster, blah, 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 whatever. I don't get paid to do that promo. I don't get paid to do any promos. Exactly. But anyway, but yeah, I don't expect Sean Doogie to be there just because he has no contractual obligation to the Sharks at all, even though it'd be awesome. But yeah, well, I'm really, really curious to see not only the players who were drafted this year, but the players who were drafted last year and see who's developed and whatnot. So I definitely encourage you to go check that out. Ian, what is your total grade for the Sharks draft class this year?
I think overall I give it a B minus. I think maybe B minus. I think I like overall. I think I like the collection of players we got. There's only one pick that I really don't care for. The rest of them are all passable in my opinion. Taking into consideration that the drop off in player after 60, again, in my opinion, I think the Sharks did all right. I think they took some interesting players. Will these players all pan out? Probably not. I mean, there's teams where lots of teams have, drafts where only a couple players pans out. That's, I think a lot of people put too much emphasis, you want to hit on your early round picks, but your late round picks, when they pan out, you'd be happy. You don't get mad. You'd be happy that they panned out because they're not supposed to. The odds are so astronomically against them that it's, when you get a guy like Joe Pavelski or, even other later round picks, how can you go wrong with that?
Yeah. I think I'm giving this grade a C minus. I think it was an average draft for the Sharks. And remember, C's not bad. C's just average. The reason I give it a minus is just because of the trading additional assets, in this case picks, for players that I thought they could have gotten with those same picks.
Yeah.
Like Linus Karlsson, like Jasper Weatherby. Overall, I probably should give it an A just for the fact that Doug Wilson didn't do his typical I'm going to trade 3 picks to get Marcus Kruger trade that he does every draft. So in that respect, A+. But yeah, I'm giving it a C minus just because it's average with the slight asset loss. But again, hey, if Merkley pans out, all the rest of the players can go on to great careers in the SPHL and England and whatnot, because that's really what the Sharks needed is Merkley. Everything else is butter.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I think why I graded the Sharks draft so high. I was terrified that they were going to go and pick a guy like Ryan McLeod, who is as safe a pick as they come.
Yep.
And I was really terrified of that kind of pick. They took, in my opinion, they took the best. They took, without the attitude issues, that's the best defenseman on the board.
Besides, on the board, yeah, because Dahlin wasn't falling to 21.
No, right. Dahlin wasn't falling to 20. Okay, yes. Other than Rasmus Dahlin, who was in a class all his own, like Merkley is a top 10 guy. He would be up there with, with the Quinn Hugheses and the Dobsons and the Bouchards. Like he would have been right in that mix without all the noise.
Yeah.
So as much as we've all known people, I'm sure we've all known people who were stupid in their adolescence and then they carried some of those awful traits into adulthood to their detriment. That's a possibility here. Like we all know people like that. But hey, I'm a Sharks fan. I'm hoping for the best. I like the pick. I'm hoping he gets his stuff together and maybe just a tiny wee bit plays a little more defense because we have one Brent Burns and that's enough.
Yeah. And hey, if Tim Heat actually does stick with this organization, uh, you really want to generate more offense from the blue line, but you don't want to generate too much offense from the blue line to where you become the Islanders, where you forget how to defend. Which actually, I guess I'll just transition real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Vancouver's draft this year? With Quinn Hughes and Jet Wu specifically.
Yeah, I thought. I thought Vancouver did good. Edmonton did okay.
Yeah, Edmonton did all right.
A lot of the teams in our division did all right. I'm not crazy about what Arizona. I don't know what's going on in Arizona. No idea. And I love Barrett Hayton. I love Barrett Hayton. I think he's gonna get all kinds of opportunities to just blow up next year in the OHL, but not at fifth, man. Not at fifth. Ottawa, don't know what the hell Ottawa's doing. They're just such a tire fire.
Yeah. Real quick on Ottawa, if you missed the last show, I asked Hockey Jerk what was Ottawa thinking not picking Zadina, because Brady Tkachuk is essentially going to do what they already drafted Logan Brown to do. So why not have a different aspect of your offensive core? And I feel the same way with Montreal real quick. Taking Jesper Kotkaniemi at third overall. Yeah, they need center. It's well documented, big time. Next year, they're probably still going to be a lottery pick. Mm-hmm. It's all centers next year in the draft.
Yeah.
Next year's Montreal should have also taken Zadina and drafted Jack Hughes next year, because I think they very well could draft first overall. But the reason I asked you about Vancouver is just because I'm talking about, we've got Burns. The Sharks have Burns, Merkley, Heed for now. We'll see what happens there. Starting to lean maybe too offensive if they all pan out. Mm-hmm. I think Vancouver's in that same danger zone too, where they want Yule Levy, Hughes, and Jet Wu to all pan out off. But how many undersized offensive defensemen can you get? Because when you're playing heavy teams like last season's Vegas, don't know when next season's Vegas is going to be, but last season's Vegas, the Sharks, the Ducks, the freaking Kings for sure, all heavy teams, and Vancouver gets all these great offensive talents on the blue line, but if they all get thrashed in their own end, it's not going to matter.
I mean, it's hard, right? Because you don't want to draft I think, based on what the board looked like at the time, that was a great pick for Hughes. That probably was the best defenseman,
I had him sixth on my list.
Yeah, like that was the best defenseman on the board at the time. So if you're going defense, that's the pick. I would have hated to see them draft a different, because it's hard, because again, you never know who's going to plan out. So you really shouldn't draft for position, in my opinion, unless it's like first overall, where you can, you're getting the best player regardless, and that player is going to probably play next year. I don't know if I don't believe Jack Hughes is going to be playing for the Canucks next year. So
Quinn Hughes,
sorry, Jack Hughes is next year, right?
Jack Hughes, first overall pick next year, right. Folks.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I feel like they did. I don't know. I think the Canucks did good. I think that you don't know what's going to happen with your development, so you need to take the best player on the board.
Yeah,
and they did.
I just wanted to ask you, because I feel like they're getting a little lopsided in one type of. I mean, I think it's great that Vancouver's developing from the blue line out.
Right.
Carolina's working on that. Philadelphia's done that. And I think Philly's going to be silly, stupid, good. And St. Louis kind of set that mold by drafting Pietrangelo and Shat. Well, they drafted Johnson, Ian Cole, Parayko. I mean,
yeah, no, absolutely. Which actually, speaking of teams with good defensive cores, Carolina looked set on the blue line, and yet trades.
And they made a trade, which got announced.
So Calgary gets Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm from the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Dougie Hamilton, Adam Fox, who is currently playing for Harvard, and Michael Furland. What was your thoughts on this trade? Who won? Who lost? It's crazy.
This trade. So I really like the trade for Calgary to get, because I'm still a big Noah Hannafin fan. I just, talent for talent, at least right now, Calgary needed a shakeup. Carolina needed a shakeup too. And Carolina is going to be making more moves. We have heard that Jeff Skinner apparently has nixed at least 3 different trades with the Hurricanes that were, I don't know how he has ultimate authority on this. I didn't know he had a no trade clause or no movement clause. But so Carolina's going to be
Skinner a no movement clause.
Yeah, I don't know. But I really do like the move because I'm not the biggest Dougie Hamilton fan. So I mentioned it on the show last year at some point around January, or this year around January, I think, that maybe Dougie Hamilton's the problem because he was supposed to be the solution and Calgary got worse, and Boston seemed very eager to move him out at the time. Mm-hmm. So I don't think Dougie Hamilton's this terrible, god-awful defenseman, but I do think that in his own zone, he comes and goes, and I also wonder a little bit about the leadership. Carolina is going to have to be the next team to slay the beast on that, which is why they got Adam Fox. I freaking love Adam Fox, and allegedly Calgary wasn't going to be able to re-sign or to sign him to a deal. So they moved him now, but still overall, I think for right now, I really do like the Calgary deal. And I didn't even mention Elias Lindholm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Calgary fans seem pretty upset about it. A lot of the reaction I saw from Calgary was less than receptive. But I think they got some quality players there. I like, Lindholm. I'm not as big on Noah Hannafin. I think, for a guy who, this is a guy that was supposed to go 3rd overall that year. I just feel like he's been kind of overshadowed by other pieces of that blue line where I think a guy of his pedigree shouldn't have been. But that being said, I think all this nonsense about, Dougie Hamilton, like, oh, well, they would go for a team lunch and he'd go to a museum. Like, I don't know. Sometimes hockey culture is dumb. And in this situation, it's like, I don't, if a guy's an introvert, I don't know that should be considered such a terrible thing as long as he shows up and plays on the ice, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the writing was all on the... What's up?
I said, I'm an introvert, and I do fine, damn it.
I was going to say, the writing was on the wall when Calgary got rid of his brother.
Yeah. Yeah, once Freddie was gone, that was it. Yeah. Game over.
Yeah. But that wasn't the only trade. I do want to ask you about the Orpik trade real quick. The Orpik trade and buyout, because we didn't talk about that yet.
No, we didn't. So Carolina, no, not Carolina. Washington sends Brooke Orpik and Philip Grubauer to Colorado. Colorado signs Grubauer to a 3-year extension.
Yep.
Which I like. I think that Grubauer is, obviously they still have Varlamov, but I think Grubauer is going to be, I think Varlamov would benefit from fewer games, and I feel like Grubauer can allow that to happen. I kind of like the move for Colorado, who has had trouble, with having to basically just run Varlamov into the ground because they just can't seem to find stable backup goaltending. So I really like that move for them. Brooks Orpik getting bought out. I mean, if you have the cap space to do it, and Colorado does, I'm fine with it. I don't think they needed another slow ass defenseman, to be completely honest.
I felt a little bad at first for Brooks Orpik because the last show that we had, I said I felt that Brooks Orpik was having an underrated playoff. I thought he was completely shutting down Vegas and just not getting enough credit for it. I even said I knew he wouldn't be picked for Conn Smythe, but I felt like he was having a Conn Smythe type defensive effort out there and being involved and whatnot. And he's not even a mobile defenseman. But then I realized, wait a minute, this has to be all about John Carlson. And today we found out it was.
Well, not only that, I mean, Brooks Orpik, though, I mean, he's not going to get any faster. He's 37.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't think, like, when you look at, I look at Colorado's blue line, and I don't see the fit there for what they're trying to do, for the game they're trying to play.
Well, the whole move was contingent on that buyout.
Yeah, absolutely.
Colorado told him within 5 minutes that he was going to be moved or bought out. So,
and I don't think it's over. I think someone will pick him up. Like, I think
Washington might just bring him back.
I don't think, can they? I don't know.
I don't remember.
I guess they can, because they weren't the team that bought him out, so they can, I guess, technically bring him back.
Yeah. I do think Carolina would be a good fit, although I had a couple of Hurricanes fans tweet me at Kevin Lacey 22 that there was no chance of that happening. But I think that he's the kind of leader the Hurricanes need on the blue line. But yeah, Orpik's career is not over.
I don't think it's over.
Maybe Buffalo.
I think he's going to have to take a haircut, and you know, he's gonna have to get a haircut, and it's going to be a short contract, and I think that's fine. Another team that might take a look at Brooks Orpik, I think, did you say Ottawa? Because I think Ottawa would be a great fit.
Well, actually, that would work. I was saying Buffalo, but yeah, if Ottawa could just keep Erik Karlsson, there's your replacement for Mark Mathot.
Yeah, I don't know. And the other thing was, the other trade was, there's not a trade to announce, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how much you believe what the return was supposed to be in this deal. Max Pacioretty was supposed to be a Shark, and then quickly wasn't. As Vince G says, Ian sees your Pacioretty to Sharks rumors and raises you a nap. And that's pretty much what happened.
Oh man, that Kevin Kurz had a really great tweet. I should have pulled it up, but he had a great tweet about that not happening. I was ready to punch something when I heard that Pacioretty was coming to the Sharks. I'm just not a fan of Max Pacioretty. I think that he's kind of a baby. He did not handle the Zdeno. Now, granted, how could you handle Zdeno Chara breaking your neck? But he didn't handle that well. Huh?
Well, I mean, that was that reminded me of something like you would see in like WWE, like that hit into the stanchion. Like, yeah, that was brutal. And I don't think, I've always been on the record thinking that Chara did not intend to do it, because I think Chara could just lay waste to the league if he wanted to. And there's no way that Zdeno Chara purposely did that with any ill intent. Like, I think it was just a hockey play gone terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And just bad rink design, which has been corrected now, thank God.
Right. But Max Pacioretty, I feel like there have always been character issues with him, and Montreal made him captain.
Yeah.
And it is probably captaincy because he's their best player. He's a great player.
He's a great player. He's pretty much a perennial 30-goal scorer. Last year, everyone in Montreal took a dump. I mean, I don't look at his last year numbers and say that's who Max Pacioretty is.
No.
I was fine until I heard the return.
Well, that's what I mean. Because my very first thought was, oh, God, what did the Sharks give up to get Max Pacioretty? Because whatever it was already too much.
Was it, though? I mean, if it was a package of, Tyranny.
Okay, whatever it was that was logical was too much. Because no, Chris Tierney and Melker Karlsson and a 4th round pick will not get you Max Pacioretty.
No, that's true. I mean, at first the rumor was Timo Meier for Patches straight up, and I didn't particularly care for that.
I didn't either, and I didn't think that would be enough to make Montreal do it.
Right. I agree with what you're saying with Patrick, but I still think skill wise, this kind of, for me again, it goes back to what I said about Mike Hoffman, where it's when we had Mike Hoffman for 2 hours, when they moved on from him that quickly, there's a part of me that says, man, bird in the hand, bird in the hand.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's true. The Sharks did trade Julius Bergman and Mikkel Bodker for Mike Hoffman, and I never would have believed that would have happened. So
that's
maybe
exactly my
maybe
point.
Carlson and Tierney for Pacioretty could have happened.
Could have happened. I would have done that in a heartbeat. But no, I think Timo Meier, like, I don't know like where the ceiling for Timo Meier is, but I feel like we have plenty more to see from Timo Meier.
Definitely.
And I would hate to see that happen in a Habs sweater while we take a year of Pacioretty. But I feel like, this is the thing that I think Sharks fans are going to have to accept. Like, and we're going to get to John Tavares because trust me, we have to get to John Tavares at some point. But if the Sharks have to do something, like if the Sharks, let's say the Sharks strike out on John Tavares and they have to do something via trade, there's going to be pain. Because really the only 3 guys off the roster that I won't be angry to see go are Donskoy, which would kill me inside, but I'd understand.
Yeah.
Tierney, DeMello, Carlson. Anyone else, I'm going to be upset. There's going to be pain. We've stripped the roster down to bare bolts. Like if you have to do a trade now, it's going to hurt. You're going to lose a player that you like. Guaranteed at this point. Yeah. You're going to lose a Kevin Lebeck. You're going to lose a Timo Meier. Guys like that are going to have to be included to sweeten the pot if you have to go the trade route.
And one of the rumored trades has been over the last week has been Jeff Skinner to the Sharks, and Aaron Dell's not going to do it. Although I do think Aaron Dell would be involved in that trade because Cam Ward is no longer a member of the Hurricanes, and
Aaron Dell's a guy that I would part with as well because I said Aaron Dell's a guy that I wouldn't get overly upset if they parted with because backup goalies are a dime a dozen.
Right, but nevertheless, what else with Dell? And even that, I'm not even a big Jeff Skinner fan either. But yeah, if the Sharks strike out, as you said, in free agency, if they don't, which striking out is not getting John Tavares.
Sure.
To me, I feel like everything else is a loss. Brand Riemsdyk, loss.
Mm-hmm.
Like John Tavares or bust at this point.
And I think that's Doug Wilson too.
Huh?
And I think that's where Doug Wilson is right now too.
Yeah. But to make up for that, there's gonna be another trade to announce. So we'll see.
Be wary, kids. Okay. So Paul Martin gets bought out. Fairly well, Paul Martin. I think obviously expected at this point. Clears up cap space. Clears a roster spot for Joachim Ryan, where Peter DeBoer can't be like, I'm gonna go with the vet today. I have no complaints, but I'm thankful for Paul Martin because he wasn't complete ass the first 2 years he was here. And this last year must have been, on a personal level, super difficult for him. And he handled it with absolute class, consummate professional. And for that, I'm thankful because he could have been, he could have been a huge ass distraction over it.
Yeah.
On a year where the Sharks had enough distractions and things going against them.
Yeah. Paul Martin, I always have felt very highly of. I loved when the Sharks signed him. I have nothing but high regard for him. It was his time to go.
Yeah.
And one of the things, there were a few knuckleheads who said, oh, thank God, that guy, blah, 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 because apparently everyone forgot last year when he was good and the year before when he was great with Brent Burns.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just his time. We saw him struggle with that ankle injury. He never recovered. He could barely keep up at the AHL level for the Barracuda this year. I hope he gets another shot in the NHL, but wherever he goes, I hope people don't expect much because, I mean, look at Dan Boyle. When the Sharks moved on from Dan Boyle, the Rangers thought they were getting Tampa Bay Dan Boyle, which was absurd. And he became public enemy number one because he was 40 years old. What did you think you were getting? So
Yeah.
I hope that whoever does get Paul Martin realizes that he's a great guy, was a very solid defenseman. He'll give it all he's got, but we'll see. There's another we'll see. Drink up, folks. I think that's the new drinking game for the day.
So the Sharks are announced as one of the teams that are meeting with John Tavares. Other teams that are apparently included are apparently one is not the Golden Knights, which surprises the hell out of me because there's a team where I thought for sure that he would at least sit down and talk to. Apparently the teams are the Sharks, the Leafs, the Bruins are apparently in, and I guess the Islanders. I'm not sure who the other team is, but I've heard not the Habs for sure, not the Golden Knights for sure. Golden Knights to me is a shocker. Like, are you at least a little bit surprised that they're not on his list?
I'm not surprised that Vegas is on his list. I don't know. I felt like those. I mean, Vegas has the cap space. They're looking for a splash. I would be shocked if Vegas was still in the Carlson race if they were to sign Tavares. If I was Tavares, I'd take it with a grain of salt on Vegas because who knows what that roster is going to be next year.
That team's so flush with space, so I mean, they can do so much.
Definitely. But that's the thing. Like, if Tavares is leaving New York because he wants to win now, Vegas is a big wild card, no pun intended. It's a big wild card just because of the fluidity in their roster. Los Angeles, who was it? Someone said a very intriguing thing that LA and San Jose are too old for John Tavares to.
Stupid.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of weird. Is that a siren on my end or yours?
That's on my end. I apologize.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like the trade alert siren or something.
No, I wish.
We have a trade to announce. Max Patcher ready. Oh God. So I thought that was kind of a weird thing because if anything, if you're John Tavares, why wouldn't you go to a team like LA or San Jose, who is getting up there in age, but is still a good team that you can take a run at the cup with, and then take over as the guy once the older guys are out.
Right. And there's a lot of players here that are still really. I mean, you've got Evander Kane, he's not old, signed for long term. Brent Burns, a little bit older. Vlasic. I think the average age of this team now, obviously, Joe Thornton not being under contract skews us a little bit, but I think the average age of the Sharks right now is 27.
Yeah.
Now, Joe Thornton not being on the team skews that significantly.
Yeah.
But
Paul Martin not
and Paul Martin being off and Joel Ward being gone, like the Sharks, I don't know what I don't know why this perception of the Sharks are too old to exist, because I feel like, Tavares coming over here at 27, there's enough supporting cast around, and a perennial playoff team that, I mean, it's a good fit, and the Sharks have made all kinds of space. I mean, really, if John Tavares doesn't come to San Jose, you have to be mad at John Tavares. You can't get mad at Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson has done everything in his power to make this a realistic possibility. You can't, I mean, short of pull a gun on him and make him sign the contract, I don't know what Doug Wilson's supposed to do from here.
Yeah. What kind of contract? I mean, there was a rumor that Toronto is. I don't know how this rumor can come out when teams can't talk to UFAs yet. I don't even know how the Sharks are meeting with.
They could starting yesterday.
They could. Okay.
Yeah, new CBA.
Okay, because I thought it was 5 days before, and I'm like, what? Tomorrow's like 7 days before the free agency, but okay, that makes sense then, because there was a rumor about 8 years at $88 million for Tavares.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think he's going to get 10 by 10. But what do you think, Ian?
I'm curious to see if he's going to get a deal similar to Stamkos, where he doesn't ring the bell at a super high cap hit, but he takes a lot of the money in a signing bonus, like Stamkos or Ryan O'Reilly.
Doesn't a signing bonus count towards the cap in some capacity?
It does count towards the cap, but it doesn't count. It doesn't get escrowed.
Oh,
And it's guaranteed money, so you can't buy it out. If you buy it out, you still have to pay all the signing bonus in full.
right.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see him take like a $9 million deal at $9 million deal where the money is heavy on the salary on the signing bonus over, because I'm sure the signing bonus gets taxed, but I know it doesn't get escrowed.
Puckeye says he can't get 10 years because the limit's 8 years. I didn't know there was a term limit, although there should be.
It's 8 years if you're signing your own player, 7 if you're signing someone else's. So unless the only way the Sharks could get to 8 is they would have to trade for John Tavares' rights from the Islanders, which they already said they won't do, and then sign him, because he would be technically their property before July 1st. But yeah, so the most the Sharks are going to get him for is 7. Okay. We have some questions, obviously, with John Tavares meeting the Sharks. That's what I think. I think if they're going to get him a contract, I think, yeah, he can ring the bell, but I think you might look around and see other teams that have had players, get astronomical amounts. You look at what the mess in Chicago now.
Yeah. Look at New Jersey. Look at Kovalchuk did New Jersey when they signed him. They couldn't. Yeah. They had no room for anyone else on that team.
Yeah, you look at New Jersey. You look at Chicago. Even Edmonton. Like, look at the money they gave Draisaitl and Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
It's there. They haven't done. Edmonton has done anything yet. So I don't know. I mean, if I'm Tavares, I think he's going to get paid. Like, he's going to get paid decently. I mean, he's one of the best contracts in the NHL right now. I think he's like, what, 5.5 or something stupid. Like, he's obviously going to get an upgrade from that. I don't know that he needs to make max money, though. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I even if he stays with the Islanders, I don't think he's going to take them for max. I think he's, if he's serious about winning, he's going to leave enough money on the table to surround himself with complementary players or allow complementary players to get signed.
That's where I was going to go with it, is if he's smart, he does like what Marian Hossa and Daniel Alfredsson did years ago with Ottawa and take a pay cut to allow the team to bring in more players. Obviously, Ottawa made it to the Cup Finals but didn't actually win. But right. I think teams need to do. I think players need to do that more and think about that rather than just the almighty dollar.
Yeah, so that Dave was the one that asked the question about if Joe Thornton wants to sign with another team in the Isles, do you think he requests a trade so he can get the 8th year? Lamoriello has come out already and said that that's just not happening. And honestly, I don't think the 8 years worth giving up the assets that the Islanders will pry, that Lamoriello especially will pry out of you in order to get that extra year. Yeah. If you're the Sharks, I mean, do you again? What further do you want to subtract from this roster right now? There's not a whole lot left to subtract. If you're signing Tavares now, you want to win now. You don't want to subtract from the roster anymore.
John Leonard and Zach Amon for John Tavares.
You know what I mean? Like you don't want to, like, if John Tavares is the play and John Tavares comes, this is a win now move.
Oh yeah.
You're not subtracting further from this roster, from this core of players, if you want to win now, just to get an extra year of John Tavares. Makes no sense. Take your 7 years, be happy, and go from there. 4 Paws Up for Hockey. How horrendous would the season be if we don't get John Tavares? I'm anxious for signing him up, and I don't even know if I should be. My gut says he's not going anywhere. I think this is going to be Tavares all over again. Teams are going to do a full court Stamkos, yes, all over again. Teams are going to do a full court press to try and sign him, and then he's just ended up staying where he currently is, which is the Islanders. That's just my cynical view of it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Sharks can do something and get a deal done, but I'm nervous.
Puckeye had a great question. How concerned? If Tavares signs in San Jose, how does that put Pavel? I'm gonna rephrase this, Puck guy. Where does it put Pavelski or Couture? Are they on the outside looking in when they're UFA if Tavares does sign, or is there enough to sign Tavares and re-sign Couture and Pavelski?
Yeah. Oof. I think look at sacrifices. If John Tavares comes, sacrifices are going to be made. And I feel like Couture is fine. Couture's unless Couture does not want to come back, he'll be back. The Sharks will give him what he wants. My concern is if going forward is Joe Pavelski, Justin Braun. That is where I think they're going to have to shave some pennies. And I love Joe Pavelski, but Joe Pavelski's already not the most fleet of foot. You know, will he take less money? I don't know. Will he take a lesser role in the team? I don't know. But I feel like we've gotten the best of what we're going to get from Joe Pavelski so far. Justin Braun, look, you have $15 million on the blue line between Burns and Vlasic already. I don't know how much more, you know, depending on who else they sign or what else they do, I don't know how much money's left on the table for Justin Braun. He's going to deserve a pay raise. I don't know what he's going to get. You know, the Sharks, if they sign Tavares, man, there's going to be their core of guys. They've got guys signed long term. They've got, you know, they've got Brent Burns. They've got Evander Kane. I assume Logan Couture is going to join this party of people. You know, Vlasic. I mean, there's going to have to be sacrifices made going forward if Tavares signs, and that's just the reality of it.
Oh, sorry.
Also, I apologize if you guys can hear the
yeah,
horn
it sounds
outside.
like GTA out there, dude.
There's a huge accident in front of my house, and apparently there's police beeping at people to try and move traffic along. So
see, folks, we love the conversation in the chat.
yes,
We really do. But please don't chat and drive.
yes, don't
please
chat and drive.
subscribe and watch the replay, but don't chat and drive. That's all I got to say.
Right.
And follow at Teal Tinted Pod.
Yes. Yeah, so I mean, if how horrendous will the season be? It depends on what Plan B is. Plan B is it better be good, because if you don't sign John Tavares, I mean, obviously you're gonna have to fill holes. My concern at that point will be spending money for the sake of spending money. It'll be stupid things like overpaying for a Chris Tierney when he shouldn't get more than $2 million. It will be stupid things like giving Joe Thornton an obscene amount of money for another year, which I don't think, just because you have it. Like last year they had the money, so they just gave him $8 million. If they do that again, I might lose my mind. So it really depends on what they do. You know, do they go after, you know, some of the free agents? Do they go out, you know, do they try to get a James Neal? Do they try to get a JVR? It really depends on what they do. I'm not excruciatingly worried about what comes next, because I think that Doug Wilson will fill holes, and I can't see him just completely striking out on all fronts. Like, I don't think we're just going to be like, okay, so half the Barracuda are now going to play on the Sharks next year because we didn't fill any holes. Like, I don't foresee this happening. I don't think that, you know, all this contract shedding wasn't so Hasso could tighten the purse strings.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it depends on what Plan B is.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope it doesn't come to Plan B, because I just don't like Plan B. Although, what's up?
Or C.
Or C. Yeah. I don't mind James Neal. I really don't. I like him as a player, even though he sometimes does some questionable things. But I mean, at the same time, it's grit. It's playoff grit. But Perron, besides the fact that that's personal bias because I can't stand him, look at what Perron's done in his career in the playoffs for all 4 teams he's played on. Oh, nothing. Yeah, and what kind of brings Chester Chivo kind of dovetails into this is, like, if the Sharks don't land JT, who would you like to see them land in free agency or trade? Previous shows I said, I don't hate the idea of Paul Stastny, although I think he's going to get paid. I don't hate the idea of JVR again, I think, but JVR I get concerned is going to get just a stupid deal, just based on the lack of quality out there. Yeah. I like Ryan O'Reilly.
That was where I was going to go next. I think if you're going to do a trade, stop talking to Montreal, talk to Buffalo. You already robbed them for Evander Kane. Go for the double.
Go for the double.
Go for the double, man. I mean, the thing with Ryan O'Reilly, I mean, he's really good. He's just played on some really crappy teams. I don't know. I mean, again, though, but if you're gonna get Ryan O'Reilly, there's gonna be pain. You're gonna lose someone you like to make it happen.
Yeah.
Rob them of Eichel. Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
They
I'll take Rasmus Dahlin, please, for 100.
One Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah.
So
let's move into the final segment, Ian.
Yeah. Okay. Washington Capitals re-signed John Carlson today to 8-year, $64 million deal. What do you think?
I love John Carlson. In fact, I think I'm about to allude to one of the questions we got, which is, I know Paul Gackle said on Twitter today, who would you rather have, John Carlson or Brent Burns? I've said on this show, I will take John Carlson all day over Brent Burns. I think Brent Burns is a tremendous personality, and he's got a lot of offensive upside, and I'd like to think that this was a one-year fluke for how atrocious he was defensively. But John Carlson, I have been watching since he was like 17 years old, and I freaking love the guy. I think he is the complete defenseman, and he just won a Stanley Cup. Great for Washington to re-sign him, because as much as Orlov progressed this year for Washington, they just drafted Alex Alexiev as a defender. Christian Juice, I actually expect to fill the void left by Brooks Orpik if he doesn't re-sign there. But there's no replacing John Carlson in Washington, so great job by them.
I feel like it's high though. Like I don't know. And maybe $8 million.
It's the same as the Brent Burns contract.
Yeah, I know, but man, I don't know. I feel like it's high. I mean, Brent Burns at least has a Norris.
True. You got me there. You got me.
I don't know. It feels high to me, and maybe 8's the new 6, and maybe it's just me that's just not keeping up with the times. I feel like
you want to talk about term limits. I think that should be the term limit, 6 years.
Well, maybe the next CBA. I don't know. I don't love it. I love the player for Washington. I don't like the price tag, but I appreciate that, based on free agent market and everything else. I don't know. I don't know, man.
I wonder if Michael Kepney is going to re-sign with them now, because I mean that pair was awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know. To me, I'm partial to Burns, but I don't know. I like Brent Burns, and I don't think last year is the Brent Burns we're going to get for the next 7 years. I don't believe that. I think last year was hopefully an anomaly, and he, goes back to being somewhat defensively responsible next season. Be interesting to see. I think
maybe his Sharks. I mean, I still really would like to see the Sharks add Thomas Hickey in free agency. Try Hickey with Burns. Maybe Hickey will be the new Martin, except way younger.
I don't think Joachim Ryan did a terrible job with Burns.
No. You know me. I love Joachim Ryan.
Yeah, I know.
I don't want to get the team to pigeonhole themselves in. It's got to be Ryan or Burns, just as it was. It has to be Martin and Burns. There's nobody else. I'd like some more options than Joachim, especially because PDB is so hot and cold with these guys. By the way, best of luck, Ryan Merkley, with PDB.
Who knows if Peter Burkor is even still here when Merkley turns pro.
Yeah, true.
All right, so let's get to. We got a few more questions, then we'll get out of here, because I know we're running super long, because we always run super long. Who are we kidding?
This is an action-packed show, and thank you all for joining us. By the way.
Absolutely. Nick Neftepitz asks. Sorry if my throat's a little bit going. I have strep throat. Trying not to include any steady current NHLer or draft picks with the Sharks trade, with just Ottawa, and look at the defensive prospects switching jerseys. Can you tell me what the Sharks got and what they lost in Julius Bergman? Go ahead.
Not the biggest Julius Bergman fan. I hated the pick when it was made. I think Ottawa gets a guy. I've said if Julius Bergman ever plays an NHL game, it'll be one. Have a one-game NHL career. Ottawa's the right fit for that because they've got like nothing on their farm team. Binghamton was a Binghamton. They used to be Binghamton. Belleville was horrible last year with I think their leading scorer had 29 points or something. Belleville's atrocious. So he might get some playing time just for the fact that they have no other options. I think with Bergman, Ian, do you want to go before I kind of dichotomize Bergman here?
No. Here, I'll sum it up really quick. They lost an AHL defenseman and gained an ECHL defenseman.
Yeah, no, that's really the gist of it. But Bergman, his timeline was first year, barely could crack the lineup. He sort of did towards playoff time, but I mean, it took trading Mark Kandari to getting Julius Bergman playing time. Mm-hmm. Wow. Second year, very good year. He was saddled with Mirko Mueller and dragged Mirko Mueller around.
Yeah.
And we thought, hey, maybe this is a guy who's going to, pull something out. Last year, completely regressed to year one Julius Bergman. I don't know what it was. There were times where he was paired with Jacob Middleton, which should have been a very solid defensive pair, defensive defenseman pair. Didn't happen at all. Both players regressed last year. Then he got paired with Radim Šimić. Šimić certainly can't play defense. He's all offense all the time. And Bergman's just kind of become the Mirko Mueller. It was time to go. I don't expect much there. So.
Yeah, and as far as Doug Wilson does this all the time. He will pick up a minor league guy in a deal. They will they'll play out their contract and then they're gone. We've seen this for better, for worse. We saw this with Buddy Robinson for worse.
Oh, buddy.
But we've also seen this. We've seen this many times with Doug Wilson, where he will take a nothing prospect, let them play out the string, and then they're gone, and he doesn't re-sign them. And that's exactly what's going to happen with this kid on D. Donaghy.
Yeah. Donaghy. I can't imagine he's gonna. I think he ranks below Michael Brodzinski, and that's low. So I don't see him playing with the Barracuda more than a couple games.
What other team is poised to make a big splash in free agency if we're not talking Tavares? So I'm going to alter the question here, Tyler. Sorry. At SharksGuy661, what team do you feel is going to make a big splash outside of Tavares this offseason?
Like just a team in general?
Yeah, a team in general. Who do you think is primed to just do some crazy stuff this offseason and just be, they're going to be a team that is going to have maybe an extreme change in fortune going next year, or maybe they'll just be more powerhouse than they already were, and that'll make us cry.
Vegas to me is the easy answer,
right?
Just because of the number of spots and the amount of cap space they have. I'm going to throw St. Louis out there. St. Louis is a team.
I like this.
Yeah, this is a team that I picked to win the President's Trophy last year, and I looked like a genius until Christmas, and then they fell apart. They've been losing assets the last year and a half, and they've been getting younger, which is good, but those young guys aren't on the team yet. So I do think that St. Louis is feeling the pressure to get back in the playoffs next year because of the rapid decline they had this year. I'm expecting them to swing for the fences. Maybe they're the team that gets Thomas Hickey. I mean, there's not a lot of defense out there now that John Carlson's gone, but I think they look to shore up in many spots. So, and they're probably going to lose Carter Hutton, so they're going to have to find another goalie too.
I have two teams. One, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's say they traded Teddy Bernard. They're probably going to get a decent return there. They also have money to throw around, and they have not exactly been, this is not a team that doesn't spend money anymore. They've been pretty good at spending money under Tortorella's watch. So I think Columbus might be a team to watch this summer. The other team I think that has an obscene amount of cap space that people don't realize is the Dallas Stars. I think Dallas is primed to do some good things this summer. I think they have players that people would want to play with. I think, they're obviously a few pieces away from being truly a contender, but there's a lot to like about what's in Dallas right now as far as defensive prospects. Yeah, goaltending's still an issue, but I mean, up front and they have defensemen. It's just an issue of how soon are all these guys going to develop into their, into what we think they're going to be. Dallas is an interesting team.
And their farm team, Texas, went to Game 7 of the Calder Cup Finals this year with a young roster.
Yep.
So,
yeah. I think those are teams that I would watch out for this summer. And if you need to roast some marshmallows, then you should camp around the Ottawa Senators, because I'm sure it's only going to get worse. Final question, and then we will get out of here and let you guys go about your business. Seeing as Merkley is ineligible for the AHL for another 2 years, if he demonstrates he has extracurriculars under control, is he talented enough to make the jump, but not this season, but the season following? Ooh.
I do.
Yeah.
He's got that talent level that...
But here's the problem. It's the extracurriculars. Yeah, if he gets those under control, he still has to he can't play the cavalier defense that he plays in the O. It just will not fly in the NHL under Peter DeBoer or any coach. So if he, if he can make a commitment to being better in the defensive zone and, really make some serious, more serious strides in junior this year on that aspect of his game, possible he has the talent. I wouldn't bet money on it though, but he has the potential to be that kind of guy who plays another year of junior and then jumps right into the show. Absolutely.
I think so too, talent wise. Here's the other thing though. Ryan Merkley might get everything under control at the junior level, but I mean, even at the NHL, I mean there's still a difference there. So it's going to be steps for a while with him as far as his maturity goes. He's got to get mature at the junior level, and then it's got to be pro, and then it's got to be NHL. Those last two might be at the same time. I don't know.
Right.
But, there are some significant steps that he has to take first. At all levels. It's not just he fixed it in juniors. It's fine now.
Right. I mean, personality, like I think like the extracurricular off the ice issues, like, I mean, obviously those are going to need to be corrected if he's going to play pro hockey, because he's not going to walk into a room full of adults and that crap's just not going to fly. You can go back to, a player you can go back to is Nikolai Goldobin. A perfect example of, coming into the room with the wrong attitude, and look how that worked out for him.
Great call, Ian.
So I think that, he definitely has to get the extracurriculars figured out. I don't know. I mean, to me, again, Ryan Merkley is going to be the steal of the draft, or he's going to be a colossal bust. There's no in between here. Yeah. And I hope it's the latter. I hope he's the steal of the draft, man.
The former,
yes, not the latter. I hope it's the former. I hope he is the steal of the draft. I turned on us. I just jinxed the whole damn thing. Thanks, Teal Tinted Glasses, jerks. Oh man. I mean, it's going to be an interesting time here. Obviously, there's a lot still to come, and we do this all summer. So I'm sure that we will reconvene after free agency at some point and see what we're talking about, or we could start making all our phantom rosters and all this other things. The important thing is now is once we get past that free agency show, it's up to you guys. You guys are going to be where we're going to look for our content, because it's summer, and without your questions, sometimes it's going to be difficult to come on and decide what to talk about. And so I implore you, We always get a lot of questions when I ask for them, which is awesome. And I just, please, please, please keep them coming. For sure.
Definitely.
Kevin, final thoughts.
By doing that, the best way to do that is to listen to us on SoundCloud, subscribe, set those little reminders, the little reminder doohickey there, and tell a friend, and follow Teal Tinted Pod at Teal Tinted Pod. Yes, tell 2 friends, but at least 1 friend.
Yes.
But don't think of it as homework. It's fun homework. Because we like doing this for you. We love the interaction. So
we do.
And
I enjoy the interaction. I enjoy doing this. I mean, we have 19 people watching right now, which is fantastic for a show that's, post-draft show. I feel like we do, this is one of the, this for us is like, I think the highlight of our year. I think this is where we really excel.
And that's why we didn't end up coming on last night, which is why I thank you for readjusting your schedules to watch us tonight. Yes. Because all 3 of it, obviously Hockey Jerk's not here. He's out ill. Ian is working ill. My laptop was about to die last night. So it was just a bad night. So
yeah.
But I hope you enjoyed the show because Ian, I had a blast. This really is one of my favorite shows we do every year. So
absolutely. The other thing, please go check out my article on Teal Tinted USA. I put a lot of work into trying to find even the smallest shred of information on these players. It's it's not super. I wouldn't say it's super in depth. I think it's very easy. It's very light reading, very easy to process. All the stats are there. Some videos. Definitely worth checking out. I think it'll at least give you a good grasp of what we did beyond what we discussed on the show tonight. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Final thoughts, Kevin.
Final thoughts. I'm gonna just do some quick hits on the draft. First, Svechnikov. Was it a spelling bee because they had the little girl come up here and just reading off the cue cards, and I kept waiting for her to go Svechnikov, SVEHS. Ding! I don't know what that was all about. Quinn Hughes. I did not know Vancouver was allowed to draft 14-year-olds because, oh my goodness, he needs to bulk up big time. But I do love Quinn Hughes. Rangers draft. I hated it last night or Friday night. I don't hate it anymore. I actually like the Kravtsov pick. I loved Keandre Miller and I loved Niels Lundqvist. So actually, I've turned around on that. Islanders and Red Wings still win the draft for me. And the best bang for your buck pick for me was Ty Smith to New Jersey. I think he'll be a wonderful complement to Will Butcher. I think Ty Smith has the Vlasic type quality, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him in New Jersey. I'm at Kevin Lacey 22. Over to you, Ian.
So Vince with a late question. I already have unfortunately, Guelph and Ottawa play in the other conference, so they only come to town once. But I have both dates circled on my calendar, and when they're featured on the CHL on Sportsnet games, I will be making sure to tune into those as well as I normally do. So yes, I will definitely be both seeing. I'll be going to see Ottawa live when Sasha Chmelevski comes to town, and I will be seeing Ryan Merkley when he comes to town with Guelph. Those are circled, and I will be making sure I have work off and everything to be there. You can find me at Ian Blogs Hockey. I will be, like I said, you can find my written work on Teal Town USA. I've done a ton of writing as of the last little bit. That'll probably cool off a little bit as the stories kind of die down.
As the summer heats up, Ian cools off.
As Ian's going to need to unplug a little bit too. Prospect game. I'm hoping that we will do a show after the prospect game. I'm hoping that Zach is going and will come on the show after to help us with that. So prospect game is definitely a show that we will do post prospect game. Maybe not right after the game, obviously, but it's something that circle that because we will definitely do what we can there.
Yeah, and follow
as we always do.
Follow the tweets for sure.
Follow the tweets, absolutely. Other than that, read my work. Follow me on Twitter at Ian Blogs Hockey. Go to Teal Town USA. Go to Teal Tinted Glasses.
Buy the shirt.
Buy the shirt. Yeah, absolutely. Other than that, guys, have a great night, and we'll see you when we see you next.